The Memphis Mafia was a world of sharp contrasts. Some of the men around Elvis Presley would have taken a bullet for him, others betrayed him, and most lived in a relentless struggle for position, each trying to edge closer than the next. Elvis knew it, the family knew it. In this program, Donna Presley steps back into that circle to show the pressures, the rivalries, and the undercurrents that shape the men around him.
Hello everyone, I'm Donna Presley, and I'd like to welcome you to the Donna Presley official YouTube site. Much has been said about those who presented themselves as Elvis's closest companions, but very little aligns with what the family observed firsthand. Within the world that surrounded Elvis Presley, few things were more complicated than his relationship with the men the public came to know as the Memphis Mafia. To outsiders, they seemed like loyal friends and protectors. But those of us in the family saw something quite different. Most of them were caught up in the power and the glamour that surrounded Elvis. They began to believe in their own importance. You could see it in their posture and how they talked, and even how they sat around the house. Of course, there were a few genuine ones, but many carried an arrogance that did not belong there. I remember one day in the den, they were all showing off, talking loud, playing the big man. Then Elvis walked in and said, "Anyone got a light?" Suddenly, every one of them jumped to attention. A dozen lighters flicked open like fireflies. In that instance, I thought, now, who's the real king of the castle? There was also a lot of jealousy within that circle. Who had spent the most time with Elvis? Who got the bigger gift? Who was seen as more by his side more often? That competitiveness created a tension that most people never saw. For some, that jealousy grew into something even more invasive, an obsession with proving intimacy. Over time, it became a performance of proximity, within individuals recounting every private detail they could recall to justify their importance in Elvis's life. Nothing seemed off limits. What Elvis ate, when he slept, his habits, even his most personal moments, down to when he went inside the mansion. These fragments were offered by an evidence of closeness, as if the sharing of private minutes could confer credibility or authority. This exposes something deeper about the culture that surrounded him, a blurring of loyalty and exploitation. The measure of connection was reduced to access, not understanding. What should have been sacred became currency. And when people later wonder, why did Elvis not include more names in his will? I put it to you that he knew precisely why. He understood human nature far too well. He had already witnessed how quickly private moments could be sold, distorted, or even turned into stories for profit. By limiting his estate to those he could trust implicitly, he was protecting both his legacy and his truth. He foresaw that the very individuals who claimed to love him most would one day trade that claim for money. Sadly, history proved him right. Uncle Vernon saw through it. That's why he was never popular with the so-called boys. He could spot the pretenders a mile away. He knew many of them were not there out of friendship, but out of what they could gain. Elvis himself was never blind to it. He often tested people, setting up little moments to see how they could react. He once told us, "Daddy's right. Most of them are using me, but I'm using them too in my own way." It was not equal, though. Elvis gave more than anyone could ever return, but he understood exactly how fame worked, and that's why he wanted his family close. Grandma, Aunt Delta, my mom, always treated him exactly as they had before he was famous. No star treatment, no pedestal, They kept him grounded, and he wanted it that way. That was part of his plan from the very beginning, to keep truth and humility surrounding him. When the world wanted to turn him into something else, there were a few good men, Charlie Hodge, Al Strada stand out, and a couple of others. They did not act superior or compete for attention. They were loyal and genuine. Elvis was a deeply complex man, and that complexity extended to every relationship in his life, whether with men or with women. He was so multifaceted, so spiritually aware, and creatively alive, that no single friend, companion, or confidant could ever encompass who he truly was. His mind worked on several planes at once: emotional, intellectual, artistic, and spiritual. And those who surrounded him often could only grasp a fragment of that depth. To understand Elvis is to recognize that the same qualities that made him extraordinary also set him apart. He lived in a realm few could fully reach. So when people who call those others the men who knew Elvis best, I can only shake my head. Elvis showed them what he wanted them to see. The real truth, the man, not the myth, was something he kept for family, for those who loved him without condition. It is deeply concerning that what has been told in books and interviews has come to be accepted as the official history of Elvis Presley. Much of it reflects personal interpretation, selective memory, or the distortion of time. Yet, it has shaped public understanding for generations. This does a disservice not only to the younger generation, who deserve to learn the truth, but also to Elvis himself, whose legacy deserves honesty, balance, and content. My intention is to restore that balance, to bring his story back to a place of fairness and factual integrity, where the man and the myth can finally be seen in the correct proportion. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for listening, and until next time, God bless.
Thank you for joining us. If this program brought you closer to the real story, subscribe and follow Donna as she continues to speak with the clarity only a Presley can offer.